So, hey, good evening, ladies. I hope you guys are doing well. This is our first Family Fest Zoom. And so, you know what? They said save the best for last. And so I thought we'd start with the worst first. I'm just kidding. All right. Joyce looked like she's about ready to whip somebody. So, but for those of you who are tuning in with us live stream, we are going to take about the next 30 minutes relaxed and just have conversation. All right. So this isn't intended to be a sermon or it intended to be anything less than three incredible women of God answering questions that are practical and applicable to your life. Will we be exhaustive in all the discussion? The answer is no. There's no way to do that. But we are here to do life together at Life Church. So if any point, I know any of these three ladies could be a resource to you. They would love to. They're women of God. They love God, and they will give the best counsel that they possibly can. And as we all go on this journey of life together, right? So real quick, all right, so there may be some folks in live stream don't know who y'all are. So 10 seconds. Let's start with our incredible administrative assistant, Miss Joyce. So y'all introduce yourself real quick. Tell us your what the dynamic of your family looks like, and try to do it in about 15 seconds. Okay, so go.
Okay, my name is Joyce Bryant, and I'm married to Mike Bryant, and we have 6 children together. We're a blended family, and I just had a grandbaby day before yesterday.
Awesome. Awesome. Joyce serves as the CFO and my administrative assistant at Life Church, so many of you are familiar with her and see her running around on Sundays doing great stuff. So, all right, Miss Wallace.
Well, I'm Heather Wallace. I am married to Cedric Wallace, and we have 4 kids. They range from 15 to 5. So we have a full life, 2 dogs, all that good stuff. So, and I'm a worship pastor here at Life Church.
So, hey, we're excited Heather's tuned in with us. At the time of this live stream, Heather is dealing with a ankle injury that may be causing her a bit of pain. So if she says anything kind of off, we don't know if she's got any drugs in her system. So,
women are tough. We don't have to take it.
Oh, I hear you. So we'll just blame anything that she says that's off. We're gonna blame it on the drugs, right? So no, but thanks for being with us, Heather. So go ahead, our Coleman campus pastor's wife, to you.
My name is Kesley Atkins. I am Dustin's wife. We have a 3-year-old little girl, and we are current pastors, campus pastors at the Coleman campus. So
cool deal.
Doing life with everybody.
Awesome. So, all right. So we're going to dive in today. And then ladies, those who are live streaming with us, if you hang all the way to the end, we're going to walk you through some of what the dynamics of Family Fest and other questions we're going to be answering, other Zoom conversations that we're going to be having. So stay with us all the way to the end because there is some special information that we are going to be sharing and communicating with you. All right. So question number 1. All right, we got 5 questions we're going to try to go through if time will allow us tonight. And number 1 is, how do you prioritize your health, your sanity, your spiritual life, why the demand on each of your lives are so high? So whoever feels brave and wants to go first, we're going to let you answer that question. So how do you handle processing all these hats and roles and responsibilities and stress and demands that you have on your life? How do we walk through that?
I think you have to be okay with making time for yourself and not feeling guilty if you are missing something or if you take a pause. I think you have to prioritize yourself just as much as you prioritize your children. And I've personally learned that the hard way. And then you find yourself just running into a brick wall, frustrated, just emotional, and you feel like you're kind of lost in just motherhood in general. And so you have to take time to work on, you have to take time for yourself for spiritual, mental, physical health. It's important. And it's okay to take a day or take time for yourself. Your kids will survive. I've learned that. My kids survive if I'm not there. They will get fed. Now, they may eat Cheetos all day, and they may eat all their school snacks, but life will go on if I'm not there to do it all. So
That's good.
Okay.
All right, come on, Joyce, give us some insight.
I live, the practical side is I live by a calendar. I use the calendar on my phone, of course, and then I have an actual physical calendar that I write everything down on. I mean, everything. Pastor Brad knows about my detailed list. He has seen those before. I do that on a regular basis. Couldn't go without it. As far as juggling just all the different things that I've got going on, I am an empty nester, but I now have 2 grandbabies and I have 3 children, 3 adult children that I still parent, so lovingly and from a distance. So anyway, I always though try to make time for myself here in the office where we've got a lot going on. We're super busy, got a lot of things always happening. So, but I do try to take time. I try to take one day as a sabbatical and try not to answer phone calls and text messages. So if you guys have called me on like a Friday or maybe a Saturday and I haven't returned it, that's fine. I try to be faithful to what the Word of God says and take one day of rest for myself. So.
What do you think with that? What are some, because there's a lot of strong women, I'm sure, who are tuned in. You ladies are strong. My wife is very strong. And so with that, often very good at multitasking, very good at steering. What are some warning signs that you would say might be little in maybe I won't say inclinators, but I don't think that's a real word. Right? So what might be little signs? Yeah, what might be little signs that you can watch out even for your own life, that you go, hey, this is a sign that I'm tired. This is a sign that I'm burned out. This is a sign that I need to be refreshed. That when you're driving in your car, when the gas hand says E, that's a sign you're about to run out of gas. So what are some signs that these ladies can look at to say, hey, maybe I do need to be refreshed. Maybe I do need to be renewed.
I know one sign for me is I begin to if I get anxious and I get real snappy with my daughter or Dustin, I know that it's time for me to be by myself for a day or, an hour. And I can feel the anxiousness coming in my heart. And that usually is the number one sign for me of my spiritual health. I need to keep it in check. And usually when I start feeling that, Dustin will tell me to go spend the day by myself or go upstairs and spend some time with Jesus. Because I think all moms at one point or another in their life, their heart becomes anxious because they try to pour out and pour out and pour out, and they forget to be poured into. And I think that's the number one sign for a bunch of moms is when they feel like they're just completely overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah. And that doesn't make you less spiritual when you are overwhelmed. It don't mean you have less faith. Sometimes in the church world, the answer is, hey, you just need to pray more. Right. Mm-hmm. But maybe there is is prayer important? Absolutely. Is our journey with Christ important? Absolutely. Does the Holy Spirit refresh us and renew us? Absolutely. But sometimes there's practical, like maybe going to bed early or maybe having a sleep in day. In the leadership lesson world, they always say you make your worst decisions whenever you're halt, which is hurt, angry, lonely, or tired. And so I think that's a good parameter too for any of us, not just moms, but also moms, dads, and any of us to go, hey, I probably am not going to have the attitude I need to have whenever I'm hurt, angry, lonely, or tired. So we'll move on. All right. Question 2, Kesley, I'm gonna let you start with this one. All right. Is how do you keep going when you feel like you are at your end? So really kind of playing even off what we just answered. How do you keep going when you are bankrupt? You do feel emotionally spent out.
Well, I prioritize one day a week for myself. And I'm thankful that I have a husband that allows that in my life. He lets me leave on a Friday or a Saturday and whatever I want to do, go get my nails done, whatever. I usually stay gone from about 9 till 12 that day. And I just do whatever I want to do. I shop. And my spiritual health on that, when I'm at my wit's end and I just need a day by myself we have a room upstairs. We call it our prayer room. And Dustin knows there's like 3 days a week that I'll go, 3 nights a week that I go up there, and I might stay up there an hour, 2 hours and just spend some time with the Lord and be refreshed. That might look like reading a book. That might look like just sitting and listening to worship. That might look like reading the Bible, whatever. I just might just sit there and just listen to worship, but when I'm at my wit's end, I tend to pull away to be alone. So that's what I do. And I also call some mentors in my life if it's pretty bad.
Wallace.
I mean, I kind of the same. I'm in a little bit different season now because all my children are school age, so they're in school. So all you moms out there that have little ones at home, I know it's a lot harder to make time for yourself and to pull away. And I just remember when my kids were little, even just asking Cedric if he cared if I just got in the car and I would just drive and I would drive, talk to the Lord, not talk to the Lord, not play any music, play music, and just whatever. And I think there's part of us as women of God that you just have to dig deep and remember that children are our heritage and that God has given them to us as a gift, and they are a gift. They're not a burden. They're not a chore, but they're a gift. And so sometimes when we're at our wit's end, we really have to remind ourselves. I mean, there's been times I've looked at, this is crazy, but I've looked at myself in the mirror and said, you prayed for these babies. These are your gifts. And don't forget it, that these are your gifts. And so changing my perspective on how I view my children in the moment when I'm frustrated is big for me. I've really tried to learn and even pull away for just a minute, just to remember that, hey, these are my gift from God. And so even though I might want to, just throw them all outside for a little bit, they're a gift. And I mean, I'm raising Cedric Wallace's kids, for crying out loud. They're wild. No, I'm just kidding. He probably won't watch this, but he does. There you go. That's funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I want to play off a word there and actually listen to our next question. And then Joyce, you take the lead on this one. Heather said she's in a different season of her life. So how do you navigate? Because we very strategically even ask you three ladies. Kesley's in the toddler season, raising kids, and actually even of those on the panel here, the newest married. Even though you guys have been married, how many years? Kesley, how many years y'all been married?
6. I'm sorry, 6.
Yeah. Then you got so there's seasons to everything. Ecclesiastes tells us that, right? So Joyce, how do you navigate or give any advice? I want you to feel freedom in this question on navigating the seasons of life, trying to find joy in each one of those seasons. So take your liberty with talking to those moms to be able to recognize each of those seasons of their life.
So I think when I think over the seasons of my life, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that through each season, God has grown me in certain areas that I would need for the next season. So he's truly faithful in that. But when you're in the season you're in, and if it's difficult and if it's stressful, all you can see is literally, or I'll speak for myself, all I could see was what was right in front of me. I could never lift my head up and look around and truly see sometimes what God was really doing in my life, which is preparing me, helping me, just kind of holding my hand through the season. So now that I'm 56 years old, I can look back when my babies were small. And I mean, literally, minutes turn into hours, hours into days, days into months, and then years. And boom, just like that, I've got a 30-year-old, a 27-year-old, and a 26-year-old. And I'm like, how did that happen? I mean, Pastor Brad, you and Heather both have teenage children. So I know a part of you as a mom, I can only speak as a mom, but you look back and you think, how did Kennedy almost get to be 16? How is Gigi 15? How did that happen so fast? But God is faithful, and through the difficult times, I've been walking with the Lord for a long time. I've experienced times when I was on the mountaintop and times when I was dry in the valley. But my advice in the different seasons would be to really just run after Him, go back to His Word. I listen to a lot of podcasts and just do a lot of just listening. And I think that's also a key, is listen to wisdom and godly counsel. That'll get you through those seasons. Did that answer your question? Or
you did good. There were other questions. I just wanted to open up this discussion. Heather, you're the one who used the word season to begin with. So add to, take away, agree, disagree.
No, I totally agree with what Joyce is saying. And just for me, I just, even with Gigi being 15, there's some things I'm doing differently with my younger children, just really taking the time to embrace the moments, because I feel like they've just, I mean, you blink your eyes and they're grown. So, and I mean, so I guess as an encouragement to moms is that if you're weary in the season that you're in, I mean, before you know it, this season's going to pass. And then, I mean, so just embrace where you are and enjoy the ride, because I mean, it changes so quickly. Right. Every turn it changes. So
yeah. No, I concur, and I think the for Aaron and I, and I'll speak from a father or a man's aspect here, the seasons are when you can understand the season you're in and realize that 3 a.m. bottle feeding, that dirty diaper, that whiny stage, that terrible twos, all the above are such moments that it goes both ways. I think it's moments that we have the opportunity to steward our children and pour into them. But I always pick on fellow pastor friends after they have children, how many of their messages turns to the Father's love and turns to illustrations that raising that child in their season, that the Lord begins to speak to us and mold us and shape us through those lessons learned. And so, because we're going through seasons, each of us go through a different season in life as we're trying to lead our family at the same time. So understanding there's joy even in a dirty diaper. Thank God that you got a diaper to put on the baby, right? There's joy in the terrible twos, and they are selfish with their toys. And, we thank God at least we had enough money to buy them a toy to be selfish with. Now let's teach and train our child in the season where they're at. So good deal. All right. Number 4 question here. Cassie, here we go. This is a tough one. Is there are a lot of questions mom asks, wives ask. I do a lot of marriage counseling. So I have been asked this question in some way, form, or fashion numerous times, numerous ways, is for a mom who works and gives so hard, but she feels like when it comes to running her household that she's by herself. Not that her husband doesn't love her, not that her husband's not a great father, not that we're minimizing manhood or any of that by any means, but to that mom out there who's listening, who feels like that she maybe is by herself as the fixing the lunches and washing the dishes and doing the vacuuming, and what do you say to her to prevent bitterness and maybe make their marriage stronger? And I'd like to hear all 3 of y'all kind of speak to this, because it's broad, but this is a real issue to where maybe there's less engagement from one spouse than there is the other. How do we bring encouragement to them today?
I would tell that mom to guard your heart, number one, and don't allow resentment toward your spouse to set in. And communication is a big key. If your husband doesn't know what you are expecting of him, that's called unmet expectations. And I learned this early on in mine and Dustin's marriage, going through, years of counseling. We went through 2 years of counseling marriage counseling before we got married. And that was probably the thing that we talked about the most, is unmet expectations. But if your husband doesn't know what you expect or what you want from him, then you can't hold him hostage to the way you feel just because he's not fulfilling that desire. And that comes down to, you have to communicate with him and tell him, this is what I need help with. Would you please help me there? All the above. And in the process of that, just guard your heart, because the spiritual side of that, it can and it will drive a wedge between you and your husband if it's not dealt with early on in the marriage. Brad counsels a lot. Dustin and I have sat and counseled with married couples. And that's probably the number one thing that we've talked to married couples about, is one spouse expects one thing, the other spouse expects another, but they've never sat and communicated about it. So I would say, guard your heart as the wife, and keep peace in your home, and communicate with your husband. That's worked for me and Dustin. Joyce might have something different, and Heather, they've been married longer than I. Go ahead, Joyce.
I'm just cracking up because they said keep peace in your home. Kudos to you, Kesley, for that one.
You know I don't, girl.
For me, I would say I do agree with communication, but I also think that as a wife and a mother, if any of you are like me and you are OCD and you like things a certain way, and even so, example, I fold my towels a certain way. And when Cedric and I first got married, he would try to help me do laundry. He would fold the towels the wrong way, and I would literally refold them right in front of him. So what do you think that did for him? Well, he said, well, why in the world would I fold a towel if she's just going to refold it? I mean, the towels go in the cabinet, right? I mean, they're not, in the closet, they're not even out. These weren't the decorative towels that you hang on the towel rack in your bathroom. So same with loading the dishwasher. I mean, I load it a certain way. He doesn't load it the same way as I load it. And almost 17 years later, he still doesn't load it the same way or fold the towels the same way.
What's wrong with that boy?
Right. I've had to teach him all these years. But here's the difference, is I have learned that to let go and let him help in whatever aspect he can. And to realize that, listen, we're in this together. I mean, these are towels, for crying out loud, Heather. Get over it, figure it out, and move on, you crazy woman. That's what I tell myself. So, but you got to communicate those things with your spouse, and you got to, remind them that, hey, these, I will tell y'all something kind of funny. When Cedric and I first started having kids, one day he said, why do I have to babysit the kids? Y'all can only imagine how well that conversation went. I was like, babysitting is when you get paid to keep somebody else's kids. These are your children, so then of course we cracked up laughing afterwards. He was like, that was terrible verbiage, wasn't it? I was like, oh, you think? I mean, they're your kids. But I do think that just communicating and just being real and realizing that you're going to fail. He's going to fail. You're both going to fail. And just being willing. Sometimes I've learned, as I've gotten older, sometimes just to laugh at the things that used to frustrate the living daylights out of me. Sometimes it's better just to laugh. You can cry or you can laugh. And so, I've chose laughter a lot more as I've gotten older than I've chose crying. So
Joyce, so Kesley and Heather both just kind of emphasize the idea of communicating inside of your marriage. What are some tips on communication? There's good, because communication can be good and it can be bad, both. So what's some tips on communication?
So honestly, the first question I think of is, why is it up to the woman to communicate?
Thank you.
Praise the Lord.
That it is
That's fair.
Okay, let me finish. Okay, Pastor Brad's he's kind of moving around a little bit.
No, I said it's fair.
Okay.
He's nervous. He's over here like, cut the Zoom call off, cut it off.
Oh, that's more than fair, but go ahead. So in the instance, let me rephrase my question. Right. In the instant that you said, hey, Mike, we need to talk about a few things, right? So there's that form of initiating communication. Then there's walking in the room, throwing something at your spouse and raising your, communication comes in a lot of forms. I know Aaron and I have been together, dating and everything. We've been together 27 years. That's a long haul. I can see Aaron's facial expressions, and she can communicate 10,000 words to me through her body language and her face that, hey, so I know what's up every time of the day when I just can see how she's standing. I can see her facial posture, all the above. So, I like your question, but I won't chase rabbits. So why don't you help from a lady's point of view? What's some good ideas for communication and some bad ideas?
Well, I agree, of course, with Kesley and Heather. Communication is key. And I think I don't see anything wrong with setting a time and a day to communicate, because even though Mike and I, we are empty nesters, we are very busy. I guess everybody thinks because you're an empty nester, life is over and you just die after your children grow up. That's just not the way it goes. But we try to communicate weekly on a regular basis of, this and that needs to be done. We have a lot of things outside of work that we're trying to get started rolling. So, yeah, I mean, we each have, honestly, I hate to call them tasks, but that's really what they are. And we each have a to-do list of things that need to be accomplished this week. So we know today what we're going to be doing every day this week. He knows my schedule, I know his schedule, and then we sprinkle in all the other things that have to be taken care of. So communication is number one. Poorly communicated expectations would be, slamming stuff around, slamming doors. I've done all that. I've done it all. I have done it all. And
slamming the cabinet doors, yeah.
In the cabinet doors, that might accomplish something in the moment, but Mike Bryant, he's going to get up if I slam a door or jerk the dishwasher lid down and jerk the little cage thing open and start slamming dishes in it. He gets up out of that chair because he knows. He's like, uh-oh. She got mad at me because I'm sitting in here watching ESPN or whatever while she's in there doing the dishes. So
just keep it real, Joyce. Just keep it real. That's all.
Can you teach me how to
actually a couple of weeks ago? So he got. I mean, he came. He knew. He said, "Yeah, fat mammy done got mad."
Well, let me tell you what happened last week. Joyce knows about this. So, everybody watching this will know that we all have real marriages and real families. Last week, I was sitting in the recliner and Dustin is cooking. He's the cook of our house. And he looks or says, as he's cooking, he says, "Babe, you've been home all day. What have you done in the house?" I did not respond. All I said, I picked my phone up first and I text Joyce. I was like, "Oh, you better pray for me right now." And I responded and I said, "You probably should not have asked me that question just like you asked me that." And he goes, "Well, I'm just trying to communicate my feelings." And I got up and I just gently walked out of the room and texted Joyce. Went upstairs and spent some time with Jesus. So it's all in the communication the right way, right, Joyce?
Well, I will say this.
The delivery.
The delivery. From the parental side of this, I have added Cedric to every remind, every group me, every parent group text. He hates that stuff, but we talked about it at the beginning of the year. I said, I should not be the only one getting all these updates because if something falls through the crack, then I'm going to be the one that gets blamed for it. But if we're both getting the communication, so he gets it all now too. And then, Joyce, I'm a list person too and a calendar person. We actually have a week-long chalkboard calendar on our wall in our kitchen. And on Sunday nights, I will go in and I will write everything that pertains to the children that we've got going on all week long. And so organization, I mean, I know this is maybe not spiritual or what people want to hear, but being organized, taking the effort to being organized and having a plan, everything in life that runs smooth and that is not super stressful has a plan behind it.
I agree with that.
Everything in life has a plan. So, you can't take the shotgun approach to parenting either. I mean, it's not like, oh, it's Monday, our kids got to go to school. And so, I mean, clearly your kids got to go to school. So there's that plan. I mean, I lay my kids' clothes out at night. Most of the time we do as much lunch stuff we can do at night because my kids won't eat the free lunch at school. Don't get me started on that. But anyway, so I know that's chasing rabbits, but I was trying to bring that back to saying, I mean, plans, communication plans. So moms, wives out there, put that husband on that remind group and the group 1,500 group me's that you got for every event known to man. And I promise you, when they start seeing how much information you get all the time, they may start actually being like, yeah. So then you might divide the kids. You take this kid, I'll take this kid's class stuff or whatever. So anyway,
hey, well, we're gonna land this plane. I'm gonna put my 2 cents in on communication. I think the
yes.
it's worth about 2 cents. That's how much it's worth. I think if I was taking all of us skydiving, the ignorance and stupidity would be to try to learn how to when you pull the cord after you've jumped out of the plane. And I think you wanna prepare. And I like what Heather just said with planning. And at the end of the day, communication is key. Communication that goes bad always makes room for offense, wounds, bitterness. It always puts you on a downhill slope. So I'm a big fan of couples learning and setting the boundaries and setting the parameters for their communication. For Aaron and I, we try on Sunday night to sit down and talk about what the week looks like. I try nightly. I try that 3-letter word. All right. So most men struggle of hitting the pause button and allowing their spouse to communicate. Like, that's why when you ask us, hey, how'd your day go? Most men will say, fine. When the husband asks the wife, how'd your day go? You usually get a 10 to 15 minute answer. And, hey, we went to did this and I did this and I had this discussion, all the above. So there's a lot more details attached to it. So in Aaron and I's communication every night when we get home, men, if there's any guys, ladies, if you need to go get your husband and rewind this live stream and go to right here, I try to give a window where I say, hey, babe, how was your day? I put my phone down. I don't let anything distract me. And I let her just, for lack of better terms, vomit and tell me all the ups, the downs, the conversations, the good, the bad, the ugly, to allow her to communicate. Because then I know and I understand why maybe her stress level is high, because maybe she processed a lot today, especially whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're a business professional. So all that to say, when you navigate what works for your marriage, when you navigate what works for your family, for you and your spouse, don't wait till you jump out of the plane to try to figure out how to pull the parachute. Figure out the boundaries, figure out the communication, figure out how you're going to make that work for your family before you get to that point. Because it's when Joyce is frustrated because the dishes hadn't been put in there and she's slamming pots, and then Mike bounces back, what's your problem? And da-da-da-da, you get into arguments and you're trying to pull, you're getting in trouble. Yeah. So it just turns bad. So figure out what works for you, your marriage. Every family is different, and that's okay. Every marriage is different. That's okay. But we have basic needs. And one of them is clear communication, clear understanding of each other, because we're partners. Right? At the end of the day, we are partners doing this thing called life. The two become one flesh. It shouldn't all be on one person's shoulder. We should be able to walk through it together. So, hey, I do want to address this. I apologize. I know we're going a little bit long. Y'all hang tight with us. We're going to end something. But I want us to talk to maybe the lady who's watching today who don't have a spouse. She's a single mom, and she has to play the role of mom and dad. A lot of people don't know part of Joyce's testimony and story. Joyce had a season where she was a single mom. So when she said earlier, I don't know if you caught it, that her and Mike have a blended family. Joyce, can you speak to that single mom that feels like she's trying to parent sometimes as mom and dad? She don't have that spouse to argue with right now or to communicate with. Can you just speak of encouragement to her life?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing that you can do as a single parent would be to surround yourself with support. And you want to, of course, be mindful of who you're surrounding yourself with. As a single parent, it can go wrong really quickly. So you want to seek, in my instance, I saw godly counsel and small groups, church small groups, very, very important to help you through this season. And as Heather said earlier, it's a season. It's a season that you're in with your children and, just what you've got going on in your life. But godly counsel is very, very important in that. And just get that person that you trust and hold them close. And I'll just say, women with women, of course, you don't want to be seeking godly counsel from another male figure. It's just best to have an older woman that has a lot of wisdom, and maybe she has walked through that season too. So, somebody like a sounding board, I guess you would say. And of course, always we put God first and stay in the Word every single day. Stay in the Word, seek the Lord, and just take a season to run after Him. And I think that really kind of helps direct your path and get you headed in the right direction.
Good stuff. And closing thoughts. We're running out of time here. We're gonna let that be your closing thoughts, Joyce. Heather, closing thoughts.
Just, at the end of the day, give yourself some grace and cut yourself some slack, and just keep your head up and keep your eyes on the Lord. And just remember that our role as a mother, as godly mothers, is to raise our children to love the Lord and to raise them in the ways of the Lord. And your kids don't have to look like everybody else's kids. You don't have to keep up with what culture and society is trying to do or instill in our children. But our goal is to raise them up in the knowledge of the Word of God and the understanding of God. I mean, there's times even with my kids, I've heard Pastor Brad say this a lot. Others may, and we may not. And that's a motto that we have too. I mean, just because your friends are doing this, your kids' friends are doing this, doesn't mean that, your children should be doing this or that or whatever. So just really understand that your role as a mother, as a godly woman and as a mother, is to raise your children to the best of your ability, to be kingdom-minded children and to not be worldly-minded kids.
That's good. Miss Atkins.
My advice would be for the moms out there, whether you're single or married, is to draw close to the Lord, number one, and let Him draw close to you. Whatever season you're in, whether you're in a season like me, you have infants, toddlers, or Heather, she's got teenagers, Joyce, she has adult children. Draw close to the Lord during the season of your life right now and let Him draw close to you. And take time for yourself. It's okay that you take time for yourself as a mom. And also invest in your marriage, whatever that looks like for you. Invest in your marriage. Date your spouse. Your spouse is going to be there when your children are grown and out of the house. Your spouse will still be there. Don't lose your marriage in the midst of raising your children. And that has been drilled into me by every mentor, counselor I've ever talked to. Is they've always told me and Dustin, don't lose your marriage in the midst of raising your children, because once your children are out of the house, you will still have each other. So however that looks like, invest in yourself, invest in your marriage, and draw close to the Lord right now. Just let Him draw close to you and love on you.
Awesome. Great advice from three incredible women of God that we love and adore here at Life Church. So with that, hey, what moving forward is going to look like each week of Family Fest, we're going to pick a different topic that we're going to be presenting God's Word on Sunday. And if for some reason you were not here yesterday, we had celebrated Mother's Day, but the title was Mother's Priorities. So we actually kind of talked and communicated a few of these things that these ladies gave us tonight. And so you can go check at livelifefwd.com/Family Fest, and that will bring you to a resource page where there's a link on there that you can go watch yesterday's sermon. There'll be a link on there back to this live stream, and then the weeks moving forward, as we're adding more live streams, we're going to talk about parenting, we're going to talk about marriage, we're going to talk about finances, we're going to talk about conflict resolution, a lot of different topics that we're going to pick up in a setting just like this, because we can't talk about it for time's sake. All right, I believe the Bible speaks to every topic, every issue, anything that even socially that we're trying to process. But for time's sake, we can't do that on a Sunday. We want to do it in a setting like this. So Family Fest is going to be incredible. It's going to be a great time for us to celebrate together. So God bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight.